Welcome, Lama Jampa.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be with you all. Okay, I believe everybody should have the text of the Sedana we're using.
Yeah,
If
we
not,
added that in today's email. So, yeah, everyone should find that in their inbox. If you are on that call, you got the email, so you have that sadhana that Lama Champa will be using.
yeah. So if you don't have it, then you can just follow. But if you go to page 4 of that particular text, there's refuge in generating bodhicitta. I would like us to do that based on this text. Okay. So, but before we do anything like that, we should, of course, recognize our motivation. And what I really love so much about Milarepa was that he didn't have anything. He didn't have a monastery. He didn't have, like all of the trappings that we have nowadays. And not to say that our present gurus who might have monasteries and such have problem. But just there's a certain purity in that, in just that they're a complete renunciate. Similarly, if we think of for example, Kuno Lama Tenzin Gyaltsen, he was a recent teacher. He only died maybe 30 years ago or something, 20 years ago. He was incredibly renounced. I mean, he had nothing, and yet he was a teacher for the Dalai Lama for bodhicitta. And then he wrote a text of 360 verses of praise of bodhicitta, just an incredibly renounced being. I actually got to meet him. I particularly sought him out. I wanted to receive bodhisattva vows from him. So I went to Sopema. This is 1979, I guess, with another monk, and the two of us arrived in a little village of Sopema. Then we went looking for, the Kuno Lama Tenzin Gyaltsen, the very famous Lama. We were directed to a little stone hut and, mud walls, mud floor. We had to climb up to the second floor on basically a log with little grooves cut into it, arrived up there, and then sitting in the corner, wrapped with a blanket wrapped around him, I mean, basically on a mat, and with glasses as thick as Coke bottle bottoms, and almost no teeth. That was Tenzin, the Kuno Lama Tenzin Gyaltsen. I mean, he could have been living in a monastery and all of the praise and the Dalai Lama's tutor. I could have had anything, and yet he'd renounced it all. It's just him, and then he had an assistant, Kadroma, who was taking care of him. And I was deeply moved by that, just because you could say we don't want to overemphasize renunciation, and actually in Buddhism, that's a really bad word. It's called spiritual determination. Renunciation is like you're looking backwards and saying, I renounce this, I renounce that. In Buddhism, we have what's called Neijung, which is spiritual determination or such. And what it refers to is I'm going somewhere. Is quite different than renunciation. If you go somewhere, yeah, you might leave some things behind, but you're not focused on that. You're focused on going somewhere with yourself. So anyway, Kuno Lama Tenzin Gyaltsen, I would think, would be at this time one of the more, recent, really Milarepa, emanations. And then, of course, we have Mingyur Rinpoche, who's, of course, now very popular and everything. But he, there's his book, and he escaped his monastery and went off and lived for 3 years, in the forest. He almost died from food poisoning and things. I mean, very precious, of course, and now we know about him, and so he's sort of super popular and things. I mean, I'm sure he still has his very clear feelings about what's important and not important. But again, here's another example. And then there are many others, great lamas. I mean, for example, my own teacher, Geshe Rapton, he was one of the top Geshis in Tibet until the Chinese invaded. Then he, of course, escaped. And he didn't just go into a monastery and become a teacher of students. He went off, he did a 3-year retreat of actually Yamantaka, and things. And just after that finished, then I actually got to meet him, and I took my refuge vows from him. Sorry, just a second, I have to turn my phone off. I'm so sorry about that. I always forget to do that. Sorry, my apologies for that. Silly invasive phones. Okay, so Geshe Rapton. And then when I met him, he lived in a little mud hut that would have been maybe 2 meters by 3 meters with a slate roof on it. And that's what he lived in, and he was, up on the side of the mountain above Dharamsala with the Dalai Lama. And he was doing, Shine and completion stage practices and such. And so, although not, I mean, there's just what I like to point out is that often we think of that maybe the Kargyupa and Nyingmapa lamas are the ones that do all the big retreats, and no, especially the lamas that came out of Tibet, a lot of them in the Gelugpa, very serious. And if you sort of think about why, well, if when you're in Tibet, there's a whole cultural environment that supports you, everything's just wonderful, and things, I mean, you basically do your practice and stuff. And then the Chinese invade, and so you escape. And so if your Dharma practice was basically socially supported, you might lose it, which of course hundreds of monks and nuns did so. But some of the monks that basically really were sincere in their Dharma practice, I mean, they come back to the mother country of India, where Buddhism came from, and Dharamsala was very close to where Tilopa lived, in Tilopur and such, that they really were sincere, and we could say much more real in their practice. I think of it as like if you have uncleaned wheat, and then you start chaffing it to get rid of all of the husks on the wheat. That's sort of what the Chinese invasion of Tibet did, is it got rid of all the superficial people that were maybe good people, but they didn't really have a deep sense for the practice. And then the ones that were left were the real core, the real people that really were deeply dedicated. And so I'm sure whether it's Nyingmapa, Kargyupa, Gelugpa, Sakyapa, that really the regular monks that really continued to be a monk after the Chinese invasion really had a dedication to the Buddha Dharma. So this whole teaching is about that there are some beautiful people out there that really have sincere, deep practice. Maybe some of you have met some. Now I'm not up on I've lived in India for about 30 years now. The thing is, I'm sure there's still some out there. So with the motivation that I'm attending this not only for myself, but may I be of benefit to the people in my life. May I have some of the realization, spiritual determination of Milarepa. May I have some of his great love and compassion for the benefit of all sentient beings. And even he brings local spirits into enlightenment. May I have that. So with that thought in mind, then on page 4, we have 1 and 2, taking refuge and generating bodhicitta. That's the prayer I'm going to do. And of course, we should think of Jetsun Milarepa in front of us. Namo Jetsun Sherpa Dorji, Supreme Guru, who is the nature of the 3 kayas. I and all sentient beings of the 3 realms respectfully take refuge in you with our 3 doors. Namo Jetsun Sherpa Dorji, the Supreme Guru, who is the nature of the 3 kayas. I and all sentient beings of the 3 realms respectfully take refuge in you with our 3 doors. Namo Jetsun Sherpa Dorji, the Supreme Guru, who is the nature of the 3 kayas. I and all sentient beings of the 3 realms respectfully take refuge in you with our 3 doors. In order for sentient beings who have been drowned in the ocean of innate and fabricated ignorance, and for those based in suffering, the aggregates are bound by the rope of dualistic mind. To obtain the great bliss, I shall actualize the Guru. In order for sentient beings who are drowned in the ocean of innate and fabricated ignorance, whose base of suffering, the aggregates, are bound by the rope of dualistic mind. To obtain the great bliss, I shall actualize the Guru. In order for sentient beings who are drowned in the ocean of innate and fabricated ignorance, and whose base of suffering, the aggregates, are bound by the rope of dualistic mind. To obtain the great bliss, I shall actualize the Guru. Okay, now before we start, I did want to go and do things. Now there are some things that Jonas will share, but this is based on the Yogacarya or Chittamantran philosophy. And I need to review that just so you have some idea of what we're talking about. It'll be one of the papers that Jonas will share. So basically, in Buddhism, we have the 2 truths, relative and ultimate. Okay, that's just sort of it. We categorize everything, and that's everything. I mean, if you're a Christian, you have God as the ultimate, and then we are the relative. Well, we're Buddhists, so we have the 2 truths, the ultimate truth, that is nothing beyond that. And then we have relative, which depends on your particular philosophy. So for the Chittamantran or Yogacarya, the 2 truths, relative truth, what's happening around us, is false, is not truly existent. ultimate truth is true. Okay, so that's one thing. And there's three qualifications, which are really interesting. First off, everything is a reflection of your mind. Okay, that's really important. Like whatever you're experiencing, looking at this, like right now you're looking at the screen or you're looking at my image, you're only seeing what you understand of me. Maybe if you're a friend of mine, you might know me a little more, and then something a little bit more is reflecting. If not, then you're just sort of thinking, oh, Jampa, and whatever, he spent some years in India and whatever. So, but the point is, you only see a reflection of your mind. That's a profound philosophy. Why? Because you become the owner of your experience. That is unbelievably powerful. We always blame other people for things that happen, the problems, the suffering in our lives and stuff. That person did this to me and that person did that to me. Well, it depends how you reflected off of that experience. I mean, you could have a trauma or some very nasty thing happen, but you could turn it into a source of your wisdom and compassion. So the same object becomes that. Now, that's not easy. It might take you several years to work through a trauma, but the bottom line is it is just a reflection of your mind. The philosophy is magnificent. In fact, most great meditators rely on this philosophy more than they do in the Madhyamika, because it's so much more easy. Madhyamika is good. You can actually take Madhyamika a little bit and apply it into this, but basically we're going to stick with the Chittamantra philosophy. So first off, everything's just a reflection of your mind, but it has three qualities. Okay, number one is deluded projections. We think everything exists externally. Now, you might think, well, hey, fire burns. It's not just my mind. No, but that's how you experience fire depends on your mind. I mean, if you had, for example, high yogic realizations, fire wouldn't burn you. So it depends on your mind. Okay, but anyway, so first off, we feel things exist externally. And then the second part, which is really interesting, is everything is other powered. And these words are really important. It's like, for example, at the start, I said, renunciation is not a good translation of our Buddhist practice. We have spiritual determination. That's the proper Tibetan word. Even the word ignorance is not the correct word, really. The Tibetan is rikpa or marikpa. Rikpa is I understand, marikpa is I don't understand. Now, translators will turn it into ignorance, but it's just really the negative of understanding. So you could understand. The language is profound, but anyway, you don't need to study Tibetan language. We need to have good translations. So all phenomena are other powered. So when you look at something, for example, if you look at me, I'm powered by my mother and my father. I'm powered by the food I ate this morning and this afternoon. I'm powered by the air I'm breathing. I am other powered. I am not the owner of who I am. I am powered by others. So when you look at an object, you take away its overemphasis. When you look at somebody, you look at your partner, you look at your house, you look at your pet dog or cat, they are other powered. So although you see them, you could say you divest them of being independently self-existent, or you can say you divest them of being, other than projecting your mind. But first off, let's just say they are other powered. So the effect on your consciousness is you are more free when you look at something. You don't overemphasize it because it is other powered. And then whatever you identify, for example, if you identify the air, okay, I am other powered because I'm breathing. Well, then the air is other powered by other factors. For example, where I am right now is quite warm, where you are might be winter or fall, so it depends. So everything is other powers, which divests it of being overemphasized. And finally, point number 3 of relative truth, it is non-dual. Okay, a non-dual direct perception is true and valid. Okay, so sorry. So the proper philosophical thing is a non-dual direct perception is valid and true, which just means is that if you understand non-duality, although everything appears external, it's just a play of other powered, and it is non-dual with my mind. Okay, and then a non-dualistic perception that would be of the nature of your mind is true and valid. Okay, then the ultimate truth is a non-dualistic mind. Okay, so relative truth, 3 things. Knowledgeables are a reflection of the mind, which has 3 qualities. We feel that they exist externally. we should understand that they are other powered, and that there is a relative non-dual perception, and that's true. Non-dual perception of what? The non-dualistic mind. That is true. And then the final thing is there are 8 consciousnesses, and this is actually quite nice. It sort of makes it nice and simple compared to sometimes philosophy. It says there's 8 consciousnesses. You have your 5 senses: eye, ear, nose, tongue, body. Then you have a deluded mind, and then you have mind basis of all. And sorry, your mind. So I'm sorry. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body. Then number 6 is the mind. Then you have a deluded mind, and then you have mind basis of all. Now, mind basis of all is more or less Dharmakaya. And then the deluded mind is that your mind that doesn't understand. Remember, it's the Marikpa, I don't understand. The mind is just your basic mind, your personality, your emotions, your feelings, and things like that. And then you have your 5 senses. So if you were to free yourself from a deluded mind, you would have still mind, you have 5 senses, and you have the mind basis of all. Okay, I don't want to get into it. You can study that on your own, but basically it'll come up in the text I'm going to follow. Okay, so first we're going to do a transmission of the mantra. Okay, because some of you might not attend all the teachings. This could go on for quite a while. I'm not quite sure how long. Already it's 20 minutes. So I'm not sure how long I'm going to teach. But okay, so we should feel that we are a sincere practitioner, that we wish to be of benefit both to ourselves and to others. And then we're going to say, please, Jetsun Milarepa, please help me in my practice. You are omniscient, you obtain full liberation, and you're going to receive a transmission. Now, this is not an initiation, but it is a transmission. So way back when, at the time of Milarepa, whether it was Red Chungpa or any of his other, or Gompopa maybe, that would be the thing. Then they received his mantra. And then from, let's say, Gompopa, he gave it to then down to the Karmapas, and then from the Karmapas it came down. And then actually Lama Zopa Rinpoche was who I received it from, in Nepal. And he was actually very non-sectarian. I mean, he was just so simple and pure. I mean, if the Buddha said something, he believed it. He had that sort of purity of faith. And if you've ever attended his teachings, you would understand that. But what was really special about Lama Zopa was that it's so nice that somebody just completely believed in the words of the Buddha. Nowadays, I mean, myself included, we adjust things because, we don't want to be too heavy duty about stuff or whatever, I mean, it's sort of like, let's make it adaptable for the Western culture. And Lama Zopa, I mean, he did make it adaptable, but he also, just for personally, he totally believed that anything the Buddha said was absolute truth. It was to be totally have faith in. And so he had that type of mind. So I received from him in Nepal. He gave me the transmission of the mantra. I've done it every day ever since. I don't do a lot. You could 3, 7, 21, or you could do a mala as you wish. Depends on how much karma you want to accumulate. I do have the Tonka. I actually have a statue of Milarepa too. It's on our altar here at our Dharma Center. So the main point being is that we are sincere practitioners, and we have the 100,000 songs of Milarepa, which I must have read many times. So inspiring and so moving, and such a wonderful world that he moved in, and he just wandered around. I mean, nowadays he would be a bag person or a street person, really. That's the way he looked. I mean, and even worse, he didn't even have any clothes on, and yet he'd show up to your door begging, and then you say, well, what's this? I'll give him some food, because he smells and he's dirty and he's skinny and he's slightly colored green, like that. Well, that was Milarepa. Now, of course, as time passed, and whether you're just walking in Tingri or other parts around the Himalayas, they came to know of him, and of course, then had huge respect for him because, I mean, he seldom ate food. He was an incredible yogi. I mean, so moving. And I mean, some of you may have gone to Tibet, either you go to Tingri, you can see the house that I think it was built from Marpa, and all sorts of stuff in the caves. These are now pilgrimage sites. So lots of things. So this is what we're getting a connection with, but we're getting a live connection. I received it. I've done the mantra respectively. I've never done a retreat for Milarepa, but I've had great faith in him. So you are getting a valid transmission of the mantra. I've done it every day ever since I got it, and then like that. Okay, so with those thoughts in mind then, feel that like in my heart, there's a moon cushion, and on that moon cushion going clockwise is this mantra. And when I recite it, like little flames of the syllables come out my mouth, enter into your mouth, and settle in your heart on a moon cushion on your heart. Now, if you've got multiple practices, just you sort of let the other ones disappear a little bit and you're focused on receiving the mantra of Milarepa. And so with a feeling of not only for myself, but for the people in my family, the people I meet, for all sentient beings, may I have a pure practice. May I be pure and free of all of the eight worldly winds which normally push us around. Just like Milarepa was free of those eight worldly winds, may I be free of the eight worldly winds. With this thought, may I purely receive the mantra of Jetsun Mila. Please repeat after me. Om A Guru.
Om A Guru.
Hasavajra.
Hasavajra.
Sarva Siddhi.
Sarva Siddhi.
Pala Hum.
Pala Hum.
Om A Guru.
Om A Guru.
Hasavajra.
Hasavajra.
Sarva Siddhi.
Sarva Siddhi.
Pala Hum.
Pala Hum.
Om A Guru.
Om A Guru.
Hasavajra.
Hasavajra.
Sarva Siddhi.
Sarva Siddhi.
Pala Hum.
Pala Hum.
Okay, all together. Om A Guru Hasavajra Sarva Siddhi Pala Hum. Om A Guru Hasavajra Sarva Siddhi Pala Hum. Om A Guru Hasavajra Sarva Siddhi Pala Hum. Now, just in case you're curious, the meaning a little bit, there's often mantras don't have a lot of meaning, but Om A Guru is Om body, Om body, speech, Guru, Hasa Vajra, laughing Vajra. Hasa means laughing, Vajra, of course, indestructible, so the indestructible laughing Vajra. Sarva Siddhi, all the realizations. Pala normally means protect. Whom may I become one with my mind. So Om A Guru Hasa Vajra. So that's identifying Milarepa. Sarva Siddhi Pala. Oh, please give me, please bestow, give, protect all the realizations. Whom may it be one with my mind. Okay, so you've now received the transmission of the mantra. Okay, for those of you that missed it, actually, strictly speaking, I mean, you should be live. I don't know how many people are online right now, it doesn't matter. But the thing is, even if you watch this later, and you think, oh, gee, I didn't get it live. It doesn't matter. I mean, you still, Milarepa is omniscient, so you'll still, you can still connect with him. But if you should have the opportunity, then take this mantra from another practitioner. Now, there are different mantras in this particular sadhana. At one point, there's a different mantra for Milarepa. I don't have all the different mantras. I'm sure there's many lineages, and even the Kargyu lineage, there's like, I think 10 different Kargyu lineages. So it's not like you're going to get exactly the same one in every one of those lineages. But this is the main mantra, Om Guru Hasavajra Sarva Siddhi Pala Hum. Okay, that's the main mantra for everybody. So if you do listen to this at a later date, you can still say this mantra. It's not a problem. But if you could seek out somebody to receive it from in a living situation, and His Holiness Dalai Lama says now things online are living. I mean, I'm in Mexico right now, and you guys are somewhere in the world, so it is a living transmission. Okay, and just for example, like when I took my Bodhisattva vows, I took them back in 1971. When I received my first teachings. But later in 1979 or so, when I went and sought out Kuno Lama Tenzin Gyaltsen, the great yogi and renunciate and such, that, I was really, I wanted to meet somebody who you'd say really walked the talk, really lived an incredibly aesthetic life as a yogi. And he had it, and he was nothing but bodhicitta. Yes, he was maybe some tantric deities and some other things, but really he was just bodhicitta. On a relative level, Nirmanakaya, he was bodhicitta. And so as much as I was very lucky to do that, I would recommend it if you can in the future, if you miss the actual transmission of the mantra, that you seek someone out. And even then in the future, if you go to India or maybe a great Lama comes to wherever you live, you can possibly ask for the mantra. Maybe you'll do it as a group teaching or something. It might be a little different. Again, as I said, there's different transmissions, lineages. But the thing is that he's now received it. Okay, so we're on page 3, just preliminaries, and I'm going to go over this a little bit briefly. We don't have I don't want to tie up your time a really long time. This will be available on YouTube at a later date. So first, the first preliminary is done according to the levels of the practitioner in general. Make an 8-petaled mandala of arranged red grain. So you get wheat, or if you get red or those orange lentils. They could work with red seeds. Normally you'd get wheat, you dye it red. That's what the Tibetans would do. And you make a little image of an 8-petaled lotus. In the center of it, you put a picture of Jetsun Milarepa. And in front of that, then you put a torma. Now, you do not need to know some fancy way that a Tibetan makes a torma. And again, every monastery will be a little different in making tormas. It's just different lineages. But cookies, I mean, that's what I use cookies all the time because that's sort of easy. Kyabje Lingren Poche, one of my very first teachers, he just said, torma means food. So just food, so cookies, or if you want to make something more special, a cake or something. The thing that's nice with cookies is they do last a little bit longer. If you did it, for example, a 1-month retreat and the cookies are wrapped in saran wrap, then they'll stay in good condition all day. Okay, so you have a torma, okay, and then around it you can put other little bits of cookie, which it says small bits of torma. To the right and left, put medicine. I guess we can put an aspirin type. It says rakta. Now, rakta is blood. I'm not quite sure what you would do with that. I mean, you don't need to punch yourself in the nose or cut your finger or something and put blood there. That's a bit silly. But just you could visualize something. You get red food dye and put a little in a little dish or something like that. I mean, it doesn't have to be real blood. Symbolic. Yeah. And why is blood? I mean, generally speaking, blood is considered sort of the essence of life. You know, if you don't have blood, you die. So in that way, it's considered sort of an essential thing. Okay, in front of that, places 7 types of offerings. Argam, Bhajan, Bhuspe, that's your standard offerings. It could be 8. 8 would be then your music. And if you have a Vajra bell, then of course your bell is number 8. So the 7 offerings. Gather the substances. Now it says here molasses, honey, sugar, meat, alcohol, and so on. Basically, soak, the most minimum for soak is what's called nada and bala. So that's meat and alcohol, okay? Dried meat or dried alcohol. Now, if you're a vegetarian, you might say, oh, gee whiz. So what it has to be is it has to be high protein. Basically, the practice of Tantra means your body has to be really healthy. And so, for example, I mean, Milarepa, there's a great story about Marpa wrote a letter. He wrote a letter and sealed it and put it all together and gave it to Milarepa and says, only when you have a serious problem should you open this letter, only then. And so Milarepa went off, and I mean, incredible. He, even before he left Marpa, he would sit and he'd put a butter lamp on the crown of his head, you know, I mean, the little one, not a really big one, you know, and he would meditate and not move until it went out. He was seriously motivated. Now, in one way, you could say, well, why? Well, he killed 34 people. He'd done something pretty heavy. I think that, you know, I mean, on one side, you know, he's a holy being, he became holy, but on a relative side, he did something pretty nasty. And so he, you know, let's say he wanted to purify and stuff. And so he had big motivation. You know, you and I, we can't have done anything like that. I mean, you know, we'd be in prison. But maybe if you are in prison and you're watching this, I mean, you've got an opportunity, maybe you can do quite a bit of practice. I don't know the rules and regulations of prison, but the thing is that he had done something really intense. And so he really wanted purification. So he really applied himself. And that's why he would sit until the butter lamp burned out and such. Okay. Anyway, so the point being is that okay, sorry, come back to the story. So he meditated and he had high level samadhi, he had tumo, he had all of those things. And then his sister found him at a certain point. She was still alive. His mother had died, and his father, of course, had died when he was very young. And his sister sort of found him, was so moved. She said, "You're my brother, you know, I'm going to take care of you." So she started bringing him much more healthy food quite regularly and such. Anyway, and so he started eating a little bit better. And then he had all these problems because his body woke up. his body suddenly had protein. And so then that's where he then started freaking out. He'd have all sorts of weird thoughts. Not that Milarepa freaked out, but he got concerned. So then he opened Marpa's letter, and that's where then he got taught the true core, like the exercises of the 6 yogas of Milarepa and other things. And it explained to him, your body, which you've now, you were so aesthetic, but you did incredible purification. Your body is waking up now. And so therefore, please take care of yourself, and these are some things you can do. So when you talk about meat and alcohol, what you're really talking about is high protein food. Now, I don't know if the Tibetan lamas would agree with this, but if you're a vegetarian, I guess you could put some, acorn nuts or something, or, almond nuts or something, because that's a high protein. Alcohol, well, you do transform it. And I mean, if you're a really sincere practitioner, you just feel that you transform the meat and alcohol as bliss and voidness, and you take them. The funny thing, and I'm going to get off topic too much on this, but if you're a really good practitioner, especially of high tantra, and you happen to be a vegetarian, it could be you dream of eating meat, and you wake up in the morning, you think, oh, I'm so bad, I've been eating meat, I'm broken, what's wrong with me? I must be evil, It's a crazy mind. No, it's just a dream image of power. High protein is power. And when you dream of it like eating meat or such, it refers to having high power. So anyway, I'm off topic a bit, but it's an interesting thing. So anyway, you do need meat and alcohol. If you really sort of can't handle that, then maybe some really high protein nuts and alcohol. Okay. And it's just basically, they're both high protein. That's the bottom line. Okay. Then you have taking refuge. Okay. Then you visualize in front of you, Guru Jetsun Milarepa. Now, Shepa Dorji, Shepa in Tibetan is, this is on page 4 if you're lost. The thing, Namo Jetsun Shepa Dorji. Shepa means laughing, or, happy laughing. Dorji is Vajra, is indestructible. So he's a laughing Vajra, okay, or smiling Vajra. The Supreme Guru, you take refuge in him. You generate bodhicitta. And here's where it comes up, the Chitta Mantra philosophy. It says, all the sentient beings are bound by the rope of dualistic mind. Now, what's really nice with the Chitta Mantra or Yogacarya school of philosophy is that basically, when you look at anything, you're only seeing a reflection of your mind. So if you're seeing something nice, you're looking at a nice reflection of your mind. If you're looking at something ugly, well, you've got maybe a delusion or something like that. So that's where, for example, having bodhicitta, may all sentient beings have happiness and the cause of happiness, even if they're the Hamas in Israel or in the Gaza, like that. They just want happiness, and they're doing it all in the wrong way. So they're truly an object of love and compassion. Compassion, definitely. Anyway, so that is, if you look at the Hamas and you have a sense of compassion for them, you possibly are closer to a non-dualistic mind. Whereas if you look at them and you hate them, well, then you're just creating a karma of hatred, and that doesn't benefit. Anyway, so this is the first doorway of the first thing that says, okay, we are in Chitta Mantra philosophy, dualistic mind. Okay, then we go to the 7 branches, and so again, I'm going to just slightly go over it. This is sort of to help you with your practice. To the great Jetsun, who's beautifully performed, a dance is the emanation of the sphere of the unborn. Okay, the unborn. Now, if you study a little bit, both Madhyamika or Chitta Mantra, really doesn't matter. No phenomena was ever born. Now, Nagarjuna is the most wonderful commentary on this. He says, our ignorance is that we feel that something exists. But the thing is, it never came into existence. It is unborn. Now, it's there, it's got its dynamics, it's other-powered. Remember, we're in a Chitta Mantra philosophy, but it's just a dynamic, and my mind wants to maybe isolate one moment of it and say, this is really existent. There's our delusion. A dualistic mind is just a reflection of my mind, and I understand it's a dynamic of other-powered phenomena, and I don't see it as being external in such a way. So there's the unborn. By recollecting the mode of existence, I make prostrations, I make offerings, purify collection. Okay, now here again, it's a Chitta Mantra. Recollection and recollected objects. That's duality. I confess the grasping of recollection and recollected objects. I rejoice at the freedom from elaborations of recollection and recollected objects. Please turn the wheel of Dharma, which is in which the difference is of one taste. It's the one taste of reality, that it's just all a reflection of my mind, and my mind is the innate bliss and voidness. Okay. I request you to remain in a non-meditative state. So it means please teach, and dedicate the various collections which are free from all expectations. Okay. Now, and just what are the 7 branches? And there you could spend years doing 7 branches. I'm humble and I'm inspired by you, the Buddhas. I make offerings to you because you're wonderful. When you fall in love with somebody, you give them presents, don't you? Well, in this case, you fall in love with the gurus and the Buddhas. Okay, you make offerings to them. You are open. Okay, the actual Tibetan word for confession is shakpa, which means to open up. So, if you go back maybe sometime in the past and you did something that really you don't want anybody to know about because it was so bad, so you sit there and you say, oh God, I don't want anyone to know about that. So when you come to the Buddha, you say, okay, I take refuge in you, but please don't ask me about that. You've not made a confession. It's not confession. You haven't opened up. Now, when you open up, you say, whoa, that was really shitty. That was horrible, but I don't want to repeat it. That's your purification. That you could say you embrace the fact that you were misinformed or unintelligent or not very aware. You did something really hurtful and painful. And so you have to touch it, and then you say, okay, I never want to do that again, and I'm sorry that I did it, like that. So it's not guilt. It's just completely different than guilt. That's confession. Rejoice is, hey, I get off on anything that's virtuous and beautiful and wonderful. If someone opens the door in front of you going into a store, be happy about that. Rejoice. They just did something nice. They opened the door for somebody else. So that's a simplistic version of it. But the thing is, rejoice at positive things. Turn the wheel of Dharma. So please teach and please remain, with us always. If you're a really wonderful person, please stay in my neighborhood. Please remain, and not just stay there, but please help us teach. And I dedicate my virtuous actions to becoming enlightened. Then we move to number 4. The deity is mine. And I'm sorry, I'm going a little fast, but I want to cover everything. And again, it's not a detailed presentation, but it's good to sort of have a bit of an overview. The deity is mine, and is also demon is mine. There is no deity or demon that doesn't come from the mind. Dispel a dualistic conception of thought which appears as a demon, with the Vajra mind, which is free of conceptions. Now, this is, if you, of course, read the great 100,000 Songs of Milarepa. I think it's called the Red Dog of Cloud Mountain or something. There's a cave he was in, and a demon started to bother him, and so he confronted the demon, in the sense that he gave it Dharma teachings. So the thing is, if you have a demon in your life, give it Dharma teachings. Whether we really believe in spirits, and I think we should have an open mind that there are entities which we can't perceive. That would be realistic. But the thing is, even so, have that open mind. But if something comes up in your mind and you think, oh my God, that's horrible, or oh my Buddha, that's horrible, then give it some Dharma teachings. It's just a reflection of your mind. That's a very interesting, isn't it? It's like, it's a shift of perspective when you do this. Okay? Hum utsa taya pe, and I'm not up on what the mantras mean, not all these mantras. And then establishing the boundary. Aha, this is making your Vajra protection. The Vajra tent, which is the nature beyond samsara, is not an object to be protected, and there's no one to be protected. The wrath of wisdom protects the mind. I have heard, we had in the Dharma Center that I ran in Canada, it was my house actually, and we had a Dharma Center. We started to build a stupa, and I had construction plans for it and everything. But at a certain point, we came to that we have the foundation, which is the throne, and we didn't know what to do. And then one day I was asked to come and translate. I was living in Canada. I was in Duncan on Vancouver Island. And someone phoned him and says, please, can you come down to Victoria and translate for this Lama? He's a Kargyupa. I said, sure, I'm happy. I was translating for Sakyapa Lama at that time anyway. So I went down, And I start translating for him. And then somewhere in there I mentioned, oh, we're trying to build a stupa. And he says, oh, I built stupas. And I said, oh, really? And he says, yeah, I just built the 100-foot tall stupa for Kala Rinpoche. I went, really? And he said, oh, yeah, and I built other stupas all over. So here it is. I'm on the edge of North American island, of Vancouver Island. And lo and behold, this Tibetan Lama shows up, a monk, and he builds stupas, and I needed a stupa builder. So then, as sort of as funny as it was, this is just sort of stories. He went back to Vancouver, and then there was some politics or something like that, and whatever it is, the organizing committee didn't want him, and they asked him to leave. And so he phoned me up and said, "Can I please come over and stay with you for a little while?" And of course, I need somebody to build a stupa. And so he came over and he lived with us for 3 or 4 months. We made the perfect stupa. I mean, this guy knew how to build stupas, and he lived with us for 3 months, and he did the tree, all of the things that you do with a stupa. So great. Anyway, so why am I saying all of this? That in regards to protection, Kala Rinpoche, it said that if you came close to his retreat house, you had a vision that you were looking at a wall of fire. I heard that. So interesting. So he felt that he was inside of a protection wheel. Again, I mean, if you studied higher tantra, you normally have a Vajra floor, Vajra sense, Vajra roof, Vajra ceiling. Outside of that, you have a wheel of fire going around it with Vajra darts and Vajra arrows flying in it and stuff like that. Anyway, Om Vajra Raksha Raksha. That's the protection mantra. So you feel that you are in a sacred space, in a protected space. And although it says there's no one to be protected and there's nothing to protect, you have a state of, well, if you had a non-dualistic mind, you would have that. Okay, you would have that protection. Or actually, Trijang Rinpoche, when he gave one initiation, I got to be his translator, very precious. And then he gave you a little blessing cord. Like if you've ever attended initiations, you get a little cord at the beginning of them. And so he sat there and he blessed it and he gave it to us. And we're really, so precious, we got something from him. So he then explained it. He said, well, actually, this represents your whole body, because it's normally about 5 feet, 6 feet long. It's folded 3 times to represent your body, speech, and mind. And it has 3 knots in it to say, I'm protecting your body, speech, and mind. And it's always colored red. So he said, well, okay, so I've done prayers. I'm protecting your Vajra speech and mind. Okay, so everything's good. Okay, but he says, do you want to know what the real protection is? It's the color. It's the red color. It represents love. And if you have great love for all sentient beings, you are always protected. So whether you have a non-dualistic mind or whether you have deep love, you are protected. Okay, blessing the substances, externally 6 mistaken migrators, the peerless offering of the Nirmanakaya, the emanation body, internally the 8 consciousnesses. So there's your 8 consciousnesses of the Chittamantra philosophy. Peerless offering of Sambhogakaya, the fully enjoyment, secretly the great exalted wisdom of the bliss and emptiness, the peerless offering of the Dharmakaya, which is of course the mind basis of all. These actually arranged substances which are free from the conception of true existence are the peerless offering of the 2 collections. So an Oma Home. So in this, you make a blessing. Now, the simplest version of blessing is Oma Home, but if you understand reality, that things are not independently self-existent, and they're not separate from your mind, and they're other powered, then that is the real blessing. Okay, now we come to the actual practice. We're on page 6. Okay, okay, then again, I'm reviewing this and I'm not seeing if there's any questions or anything, but maybe at the end we can do some questions. Okay, from the unborn Dharmakaya. Remember, unborn means the Dharmakaya never did come into existence. It's, you could say, beginningless. And so if it never came into existence, you don't need to think about whether it exists or doesn't exist. It was unborn, free from elaborations, in the celestial mansion of self-created indestructible. Okay, now if you have an initiation of Vajrayogini, they have the Tibetan word in here, Dorji now Jorma, but if you have the initiation of Vajrayogini, you can do that. I guess if you had Tara, you could put Tara there. I live in Mexico, and we have Guadalupe, of course, it's not the Virgin Mary, it's Guadalupe, and she's very polite, and even the Virgin Mary. So I often joke with some of the Mexicans that have become Buddhists and even Tantric practitioners. I said, if the Virgin Mary or Santa Maria or Guadalupe took off her blue and white robes, she'd be Vajrayogini underneath that. I don't know if they really enjoy that, but anyway, so Tara is Vajrayogini in a more subtle aspect. Okay, but Vajrayogini, Dorjin Aljarma, she's, great bliss, red colored body, dancing on a moon, clear and empty. I stand on a lotus in a sun cushion in the center of a phenomenal force. Now, if you do have the initiation, you have a double stack reality source. If you're not familiar with what that is, it's just basically an upside down three-sided pyramid. Again, there's lots of commentary there, but the lower point is beginningless, and it slowly expands up and up until it gets to the top, where it's a triangle, okay? A triangle thing. It's like, this is a basic reality source. And down inside of it, you have a lotus and a sun cushion in this case, and then you have the deity standing on top of it, which represents from beginningless time, the lower point, which doesn't have a beginning of the reality source, and the reality source is your mind, by the way, that it slowly, when you get into Dharma practice, you slowly expand until you finally arise as a deity, in this case, Vajrayogini. In almost all tantras, they are within a reality source, or Vajrayogini, for example, in a double reality source. Okay, if you do not have any initiations, you just visualize Vajrayogini on the crown of your head. If you have Anatara Yoga initiations, you can be Vajrayogini if you have that. If not, maybe you have Tara, Chittamani Tara. It is a female Buddha, though. It has to be that. Okay, so I'll leave it up to you. If nothing else, if you don't have any initiations, just visualize that Vajrayogini is on the crown of your head. Okay, and you are inside of the reality source, and like that, something like that. Again, in her heart, okay, which would be you if you have the initiation, or in her heart on the crown of your head, is a lotus and sun cushion, the lotus and moon cushion at the center of my heart, or in the heart of Vajrayogini. My awareness appears as a supreme and powerful Mila. Okay, he is sitting in an unchangeable mandala of the three cushions, and they say three cushions is aggregates, elements, and sources, which refers to your five aggregates, your four elements, and then the sources are your sense doors and sense channels and such like that. It also represents a lotus, moon, and sun. But anyway, in this case, it refers to that. Because again, Milarepa didn't have anything, did he? He was always sort of basically naked. And his right hand beautifully lifts a Kadvanga, and his left he holds a skull cup filled with alcohol. His two legs are across Vajra. Part of his, the lower part of his body has red shorts. He wears a stainless white cloth and is adorned with red. It's actually a red meditation belt. Just gives a commentary that it's the color red for the power of activities. It's one circle, and it gives it the dimensions for it. His fuzzy hair. Now this is where, he didn't have nicely groomed hair. I remember in the 100,000 Songs, it said that when one hunter came across him, he thought he was a demon because his hair was all, dry and I guess, split ends, just frizzed everywhere, he wasn't even in dreads, it was just frizzy hair. He was green colored, incredibly skinny, like that. Just so skinny, his ribs. He's like those beautiful pictures of Sakyamuni Buddha when he did his 6 years of asceticism, like that, and so, whoa. So really, you should sort of, this is blissful Milarepa, but he's a bagman, His two eyes are looking at his disciples, and he is singing melodious Vajra songs. His body is illuminated by the glories of the major and minor marks, and he is surrounded by Daka and Dakinis. His three places are marked by Om Ahom. Light rays from these pleading for the supreme exalted wisdom beings. Okay, so it's sort of an interesting way to phrase it, but light rays go out and request or plead or hook the wisdom beings. Now, who are the wisdom beings? Really, the wisdom beings are your gurus. So all of your gurus, whether it's Nyingma, Sakya, Gelu, Sakya, Kargyupa, or all of the divine beings that ever existed, they are the real wisdom consciousness, okay? And you're going to invoke them and mix them into what you call as the commitment being, which is your visualization of Vajrayogini and Jetsun Milarepa in the heart. So you could say that Vajrayogini and Jetsun Milarepa are hollow, like a vase, And when you invoke the wisdom beings, they get filled up. And you should really feel that, like, the Dalai Lama is sitting on the crown of your head, or Garchen Rinpoche, or even the lamas that have passed, Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche. I mean, maybe you all know Lama Zopa Rinpoche passed away. For me, in one way, I feel he's more alive, because he's mostly in the Pure Land right now, and I can call on him a lot easier than, when he was in Nepal. In Nepal, I had to go through a secretary. Now I have direct access, if I have good feelings about him. So in the same way, whether you have living or gurus that have perinirvana or whatever, you should feel that they invoke. And of course, at the softest Ogman, Aknishta, the abodes, 24 holy places, the middle of the circle of Dakinis, of soap offering of cemeteries, appear to the faithful disciples and aspirations. Om Vajra Sama Ja. Okay, now if you're familiar with Ja Hum Bam Ho, Ja is invocation. So, but the Vajra commitment, Vajra Samaya Ja, I commit, I call on you. Point number 2, we're on page 7. From the palace of the unborn sphere, Dharmakaya Guru, I invite you to come here. Now, there's a really interesting thing. Like, for example, if you're right now in the Northern Hemisphere, whether it's Europe or America, we feel winter is coming. Now, where is winter coming from? It's coming from the north. But that's not true. Winter doesn't come from anywhere. It's just a dynamic of causes and circumstances, or other powered things, which manifest cold weather. But we often say, oh, summer is coming, fall is coming, winter is coming. It doesn't come from anywhere. Okay, so anyway, unborn sphere, okay, from the increasing spontaneous celestial mansion, Sambhogakaya Guru, I invite you to come here. From the palace of the effortless mind, Nirmanakaya Guru, I invite you to come here. From the palace of great bliss, Ogmin, Wangshu Sherpa Dorji. Wang is power, Shuk is ability. So it's the Tibetan word. Wangshuk is power, ability. Shepa, laughing, Dorji, that's the Vajra. So the laughing Vajra of immutable power, something like that, Milarepa, surrounded by the assembly of routine and heroes and dakinis, realizing the attractive practitioners, Rigzin. Now, that's Rikpa Zimba. That's the Tibetan word. Rikpa is with understanding. Remember, at the beginning I said, we have Rikpa or Ma Rikpa. Rikpa is I understand, Ma Rikpa is I don't understand. Now, we often say Ma Rikpa is ignorance, but really, if you're going to be smart with your words and the way you refer to yourself, it's not like I'm ignorant. No, I don't understand. It's a totally different effect on you. Okay, Rikzins are holding understanding. Tantric practitioners, holding understanding, engaged in the 10 grounds. So the 10 grounds are the joyous and such, after if you have the 5 paths, path of accumulation, path of preparation, path of preparation, path of accumulation, path of seeing. So you get your act together, you start to be more and more deeply immersed in your positive energy and feelings and thoughts and everything like that, your bodhicitta and sunyata. And then you arrive at path of seeing. The path of seeing exists for 1 second, because then immediately you enter into the path of learning and the path of no more learning. Well, path of learning is your enlightenment. Path of learning is the 10 grounds, which is the joyous and other. Okay, you can study that in your teachings of the Buddha Dharma. Okay, so all the cities of the 10 grounds, the 5 paths, all the realized beings, in order to bless me to retain realizations like yours, please come. Please grant great blessings of the supreme place. Grant me the supreme practitioner of the 4 empowerments, Vase, secret, transcendental word. Dispel the obstacles and interference and mistaken guides. Om Ahum, Maha Guru, Ratna Vajra, Sama Ja, Ja Ja. Okay, so you're invoking them. And then you ask them to stay. Since you are the deity of the manifested mandala in the sphere of the emptiness, you are beyond signs of true existence. Please remain in the state of unchanging great bliss in the middle of the Dharma chakra of my heart. Okay, so really you're saying, please be part of my mind. And if you understand a little bit Dharmakaya, you have Buddha nature, Dharmakaya within you. When you take an Anuttara Yoga initiation, you are introduced to that. So you are given direct access to Dharmakaya. Now, whether you gain that experience or not depends on you, but that's what's done to you in a Anuttara Yoga initiation. You transform your 5 aggregates into the 5 Buddha wisdoms. Okay, with that, then you have been given Dharmakaya. So what's in your mind right now is Dharmakaya. Now, we're too coarse, we're very external, we're always caught up with the sounds and the sights and everything else. So we're very external. We do not perceive things outside of us. Or sorry, we're caught up with things outside of us. So we don't perceive our subtle mind. When you meditate, you shut down the outside world, you bring the threshold of awareness to a deeper internal level. And if you've got sensitivity and awareness, you could then arrive at Dharmakaya. Of course, you'd have to be a really good meditator. If you really wanted, you'd have to open up your central channel. I mean, this is all part of your tantric practice. But the point is, as I said, in your most profound nature exists all of your gurus. And you could say they're trying to come out, trying to help you, but you're too distracted and running around and things like that. But the thing is, if you have faith, you're starting to move towards that. And actually, what's refuge? Refuge, Alex Berzin has a great word he called taking direction. So rather than looking outside, when I take refuge, I'm going inside. I'm taking direction internally. And of course, if we understand Dharmakaya, and the Buddhas, all the Buddhas have Dharmakaya, all of our gurus have Dharmakaya, we are going towards that. Samaya Ditri Lahna. Again, I don't know what the mantras mean. Prostrations, again, that prostrate. Since there is no object and object perceiver, no apprehender or apprehended objects exists, still you naturally appear and disappear as a self-arising spontaneous mandala. To you I prostrate. Ti tra ho tra ti jo ho. Okay. Illusory offerings. Again, I'm going to go over this quickly because I don't want to run out of time on doing some of the things. Okay, the worldly exists a state of free of illusion, signs, existence, all deceptive and cunning sentient beings. I offer the mode of the reverse process. So on one of the papers Jonas will give you, he gives you the 12 links. So if I pull up the 12 links here, the reverse, I give to sentient beings the reverse order. So that is, from aging and death, I take you back to rebirth, I take you back to becoming, I take you back to grasping, craving, feeling, contact, six senses, name, consciousness, compositional factors, and ignorance. I take you backwards to understand your ignorance, and then, of course, free you of the 12 links. The mind that apprehends self and mind, I offer the state of extinguished mind and extinguished phenomena. That's, again, a non-dualistic perception of that there is a relative mind of misunderstanding. That one is not truly existent. All the offerings actually performed, mentally imagined, I offer the state. Om Ahom, Sarva Putra Ahom. Okay, so then make offering. Praise beyond mind. Praise for the blissful Sambhogakaya Guru, who is greatly skilled with the 5 exalted wisdoms. Okay, 5 exalted wisdoms are the mirror-like wisdom, the wisdom of equanimity, the wisdom of perception, the wisdom of all accomplishing, and the wisdom of the Dharmadhatu, of all phenomena. The body possesses the 7 branches of divine grace. The 7 branches are, sorry, I have to find I can list them off, but I'm just making sure I get them right. Okay, 7 features of any Sambhogakaya. They have complete enjoyment. They have no delusions. They're always in union with a spontaneously appearing consort. Something that's sort of intriguing for me sometimes is some people sort of think that, you know, I've got to find my partner. Now, definitely there are people in this world who you might resonate with unbelievably, but that person's that person and you're you. You are not, you can have a great relationship, and you can, you know, benefit if you're doing high tantric yoga, but the thing is still that person's them and they're you. Lama Yeshe said to me, he said, if you were to do tantric yoga of union, he said, other than the, you know, that you embrace in the first moment of your penis touching the vagina or your vagina touching the penis, doesn't really matter which side you're on, okay, in that moment, there's this ecstatic, you know, this electric charge that goes through you, that breaks up your 5th major wind, which is actually the hardest one to draw into your heart chakra. And then you can pull them all into your heart chakra, and then you get called either the meaning clear light or the real clear light, etc. This is all high tantra. But the point being is that when you do become enlightened, it's not that like you got to sit around waiting in the Sambhogakaya form for that other partner that you had to finally die or, I don't get the rainbow body and come up and join you. No, your partner spontaneously manifest to you. It's not like that you have to worry about somebody. That will spontaneously manifest. And if you think about what it is to fall in love, you fall in love with a projection. You see somebody and they sort of match a little bit of your expectations. Maybe you have some strong karma with that person. And so you see them, they go, wow, you're so attractive to me. It's just all a reflection of your mind, truly. Because I mean, in real life, I mean, for those of us that are lay people, you know, we fall in love with somebody and then 6 months later, we find out who they really are, isn't it? Anyway, so I'm sorry, I'm off on tangent, but the thing is, there's some things which are always fun to talk about. So union, you will have a spontaneously appearing partner that will be very blissful, and you'll just saying you'll have great bliss. Absence of being truly existent means you understand, in this case, Dharmakaya, the mind basis of all, and non-duality. Presence of compassion. The Sambhogakaya always is compassionate, always giving teachings, being uninterrupted, they exist forever, and unceasing, so that they will never cease. And the presence of compassion normally says, if you get to a Sambhogakaya realm, they are always giving teachings, okay? So sorry, let me go back to the class. Okay, so those are your 5 wisdoms. Body has 7 branches of things. Clear, exalted wisdom is uncreated, free of elaborations, unthinkable and inexpressible, beyond the stream of nihilism and sustained conceptual thoughts, empty of true nature. Actually, in April, I'm going to be giving teachings in Ireland with Jonas and Gosha, sorry. On the Ganges Mahamudra, which I received from the Thangur Rinpoche, a Kargyupa Lama. And although I'm Gelugpa, Thangur Rinpoche, a great Lama, and I wanted that lineage. So I sought him out, I made offerings, and he gave me the transmission of it. So that would be a lot around the elaborations of the unthinkable and inexpressible beyond stream nihilism. So if you want interested, that'll be available, of course, in Zoom. And also if you want to go to Ireland, the Green Country in April, it'll be nice. Praise to the compassionate Nirmanakaya, who is skilled, subdues the disciples of various forms. So the Nirmanakaya, you know, there's so much to talk about. The Nirmanakaya is, okay, your guru. And it says in our age, the gurus have to appear really ordinary, because if they didn't, we wouldn't understand them. So they appear to be regular people. And in that way, though, we can have a relationship with them. But from our side, when it says Guru Yoga, and then you know, maybe you're all familiar with, see that the Guru is the Buddha. That doesn't really mean you see their body as the Buddha. You see that their mind, their inner being, has all the realizations. They've understood the voidness. They've penetrated their heart chakra and opened their heart chakra. They've gone inside. They've seen the meaning clear light. They've attained the pure clear light. They have the illusory body. Even if your guru didn't have those things, but you have that projection, that's a blessing to yourself. We call it auto blessing. It's your self blessing, because you have that feeling. Now, there's an expression that if you get too close to the guru, it's like a fire, you get burned because you see their mundane side. If you're too far away, it's cold. You're not getting heated by the fire, so it's not much fun. So you want to find just the right distance with your guru, that you're not so close that you see them as too mundane. You're not too far away that you're cold and you don't see them enough. That you got just the right level. Now, when you have enough faith, you can be anywhere because the guru is always with you. In the Tonka behind me, it shows Marpa coming in the story of behind me. Okay, there's a tree, and it shows Milarepa's cloth wagging in the tree, and then it shows Marpa flying there to be with him. And it was one day Jetsun Milarepa has lost his faith. It was sort of like the wind blew his clothes away, and it blew all the food, and I think blew the fire sticks that he had, the kindling he had in his arms out of his hand. And he was so devastated, and he just lied down and he says, I'm going to die. And then he called to the guru, and it's a famous song, Called to the Guru. And at that point, then a manifestation of Marpa appeared before him and said, oh, Mila, I'm always with you. What's your problem? Okay, you lost faith in me. Okay, so anyway, Nirmanakaya, it's, you know, relationships to gurus is complicated. Sometimes gurus, you know, have scandals, and that's always a bit of a pain. But the thing is, if you're lucky, maybe your guru never has a scandal. And then you can have sort of this nice projection on them. And again, you are blessing yourself the more you have a good projection of the guru. And if the guru happens to have realization, then they say you've got a match, okay? And they appear mundane just so that you can have a relationship with them. Okay, praise to the three secrets of Dorji Shepa. Your body cannot be harmed by the four elements, you know, because he could basically live in a cave and never get cold. Your speech sings melodious songs, that's the 100,000 songs, and your supreme mind is uncontaminated and meaningful. I prostrate to the conquerors and their sons. This is just to all the other Buddhas that might be there, and Milarepa. Okay, confess. I already talked about confession. And again, I'm running out of time. So let's just say confession is I open up. I don't hide something. But it's not that I like that, but I say, okay, I accept that I did this and I never want to repeat it again. Okay, and again, the text is quite good. Okay, then you have requests. So you request Jetsun Milarepa, practitioner, please bless me. And then it goes through a variety of requests to Jetsun Milarepa, then to Vajra sound. Okay, so Vajra mind, Vajra body, Vajra sound, Vajra mind or speech, power of meditating, single point of concentration. And it says in a little commentary there, you should have request with tears in your eyes, being fervent. I only know of one Tibetan Lama that actually confessed that sometimes when he prayed for the benefit of all sentient beings, he started to cry. You know, so interesting. But anyway, with great faith to move yourself to tears. And then it says, bless me. This is on the bottom of page 10. Please bless me to be free of dualistic mind. Okay, everything's a reflection of my mind. What I'm seeing is a play of other powered phenomena. And my non-dualistic mind is true. Okay, please grant blessings to pacify concepts of pure and impure. Please grant me blessings to be free of expectations of doubt. Please grant me with the accomplishment of the two purposes, purpose of myself and others. Like, may I become enlightened and may help others become enlightened. Please bless me to realize the lack of inherent existence of the three circles, you know, self, other, and interaction. Please bless me to be pleasure. Please bless me to get pleasure from the objects of enjoyment without conception. And of course, that's the bliss and voidness. Please grant me blessings that may obtain the three bodies, the Nirmanakaya, Sabhogakaya, Dharmakaya. Merely by requesting, Jetsun Milarepa shows the expression of being very pleased. His body remains very still and speechless, and his mind rests in the sphere of freedom, conceptual true existence. And then you recite the mantra. Now, this is a different mantra. Om Ahum, Maha Guru, Ratna Siddha, Pala Hum. That is not the mantra I gave you. You should substitute the mantra I gave you. As I said, there are different lineages of mantras. I guess Milarepa, way back when he gave his mantra, he might have given one to Rechungpa, one to Gampopa, one to one of the other students. So that's where you can have differences of mantra. We received ours from Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and of course he's very good with getting good lineage. He's one of his great qualities of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So we do Om Guru. I've been teaching too much. I can't remember what I'm going to say. Om Guru, Hasavajra, Sarvasiddhi Pala Hum. Okay, so that's the one we should do. And then it gives you some explanations of what to visualize and such, which I'll cover those and then we're going to finish, okay? Because I won't do this. So Jonas and Gosha asked me to do a second class. So maybe in the fall, or sorry, we're in fall. At the beginning of 2024, because I'm pretty booked up right now, we can do the practice with mantra recitation together online and maybe in person. And then also we can then do soak together again online, most likely. Okay, so just to cover the mantra recitation. So you do get a complete teaching of this. We've covered what's all of the things as preparation, getting close to Milarepa. Remember, what gets us close to Milarepa is the purity of our heart. Our feelings, being a bodhisattva, may I benefit sentient beings, the purity of, may all sentient beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. And you, Milarepa, you did that. You know, you had the supreme realization. You had the rainbow body when you finally went to the Pure Lands or whatever. Beams of light radiate from the 6 types of migrators' dwellings. That's the hell, ghost, animal, human, demigod, God. And all the individual sufferings and their causes, their negative karmas or obscurations disappear like sunlight on the ground in front of oneself. Think that they achieve peace and happiness. In brief, visualize that all samsaric existence becomes empty, and you obtain a state of the three kayas by actualizing the three secrets of the Jetsun, both samsara and nirvana, in both samsara and nirvana. Okay, now you have to remember that there's two perspectives on reality. Relative perspective, everything's a reflection of my mind, it's all other powered. And ultimate perspective, open like the space of the sky. Okay, no form whatsoever, most subtle mind, open like the space of the sky. So when you move to this, you are then cognizing or just appreciating the openness of the space of the sky. That recite by focusing on one syllable at a time. Purify the imprints of the 12 links of intermittent origination, beginning with first ignorance. In the end, even though meditating equal pose is like the sky, there's your ultimate perspective. Beyond all extremes of elaboration, the images appearing to the mind are unceasing. The reflections of an object, like reflections of an object in clear water or crystal, or like signs in a manner of illusion, or like images in a mirror. However they appear, don't elaborate on those illusions. Okay, so what we really do is we exaggerate phenomena. The example I'm right now teaching to a group in America, the Ganges Mahamudra, and if you go to a 3D movie, it's the best. You know, you sit in a 3D movie, you got the glasses on, and then the shark, boom, 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 comes out, goes over your head and swims back, and you get goosebumps, And all you do is you lift up the glasses and you go, whoa, that's not real. Now, of course, we tend to keep being terrified of the shark, but the thing is, we go, no, it's not real. Okay, put them back on and so, ooh, I'm back in there. Or there's some really good ones where there's mountain climbers, climbing a cliff, and they got these little cameras on them, and that just gives you massive, I don't know, like what's their thing, agoraphobia, so like that. Then you lift the glass up, okay, it's just an illusion. Okay, anyway, so that's how, phenomena, we exaggerate them into more than what they really are. So we should try to think that. The mind having those appearances is all pervasive. This is your mind basis of all, without a trace of inherent existence
objects,
without any inherent existent object to view, and free from all dualism of meditating agent and meditated object. So it's big practice of everything is a reflection of my mind. My mind, if it's non-dualistic, is a true mind, etc. Okay. Now they do the soap. We won't do that, okay, because it's quite elaborate. But we will do just the dedication. Dedicate without apprehension of true existence. This is on page 16, just to complete this section. Okay. By these virtues, may I and all others be liberated from the dualistic mind and attain the holy state of our only Father, the omniscient Guru. Just as the Jetsun remains till the end of samsara for the benefit of others, may I be like him, with the awareness that doesn't see birth and death as truly existent and is not subject to the signs of change. By the auspiciousness of the knowledge, love, and ability of Milarepa, the yogi whose essence is beyond expression, the unceasing compassionate one, whose nature is spontaneous like a vajra. May the whole country be auspicious. May there be auspiciousness of the Dharma flourishing. May there be auspicious of the expansion of the Dharma holders. May there be auspiciousness of all the migrators having joy and happiness. May there be the auspiciousness of manifesting Buddha. Okay, so that's an hour and 15 minutes, and that's sort of what I dedicated towards this. So you have the text, you can go back and read it. You have some things that Jonas and Gosha will share with you that are some of the little extra added things you can add to this. And we will do the practice. Again, I'll review it, and then we do the practice at the beginning of January 2024, and we'll do so that's something we can wait for with anticipation. So that's good. We've got to create the causes and circumstances for things. I'm really happy to have done this presentation, because for me, and I'm so sorry for my translator. He must have just exhausted himself. But anyway, there's also remembered. Oh, because I'm a translator, so I know that translating is difficult, and he's doing simultaneous translation. So right now he must have a massive headache. But anyway, thank you very much to you for doing the translation. But anyway, back to the commentary. This is for me, this is so meaningful. Like Milarepa represents the purity of good practice. And not to say that our other gurus that have monasteries and things don't have pure practice, they do. It's just, it's a little bit easier sometimes when you look at somebody that really doesn't have anything, and yet they're totally dedicated to the Dharma, like Milarepa, like Kunal Lama, Jetsun Lama, like Mingyur Rinpoche, when he was in his retreat, like really pure thoughts. I mean, his book is so moving because he talks about that state of being of just non-attachment. And actually, just from, because I'm in a Catholic country, I studied a little bit about Saint Benedictine, the founder of the Benedictine monastery. I think he was a rebirth of Milarepa. If you read his story, like he had a deep spiritual moving. He walked off and he went into a cave and just started to meditate. And then one day a monk, not a Christian monk of some sort, came along and gave him some clothes and this and that, and then stuff. He's almost like the Ramana Maharishi. Again, is so pure, like no strings attached. Just he went and crawled into the big temple of Shiva, in Tiruvannamalai, and sat there for months and just sort of had the rats bite his body and stuff and things like that. Finally, when they opened up the temple and pulled out the big chariot that was for Shiva, there he was sitting there, meditating. And then he walked up to the cave in the mountains. I mean, it's so pure. I've been to Tiruvannamalai, and actually I've done meditation in his little room where he sat. Very pure, very holy. I mean, those are people, and definitely, I mean, all the holy lamas are holy and special, but there is something into somebody who really didn't care about that stuff. Just they were the spark. Milarepa was the spark. Buddha Shakyamuni, he did 6 years, and he was a crown prince. I mean, he had incredible wealth. He could have said one day, "I'm tired. I want to go home and get a massage," and he didn't. He basically did 6 years of asceticism, and then he gained realization, and then he presented the nature of reality 2,500 years ago. I mean, you really check up like the philosophy of Buddhism. It holds up to scientific inquiry, and yet it's got faith, and it's got spirituality, and it's got states of consciousness. So precious. And then Vajrayana. I mean, for those of you with Vajrayana, you're so lucky because now you have tools to go and access your own Dharmakaya, your own Buddha nature, with the different yogas that you have and taking death, barter, rebirth. I mean, there's so much. We are just so lucky. Okay, precious human rebirth. We got it. We won the lottery ticket. Okay, there you go. So that concludes what I wanted to talk about. We can dedicate. And I can see there's 33 chats. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to look at them in a few secs, but okay, dedicate. So by the may truly Jetsun Milarepa, come and be part of my consciousness, help me make better decisions, help me have spiritual determination. And not just that may I have that, but may I become really able to go and help others. I'm doing this not just for myself, I'm doing this for others too. And so that concludes the class. Thank you very much. I'm going to just, before you turn it off, let me just see. Oh, there's someone put the pictures of a Mipo Rinpoche. I've heard the black tea. Okay, yeah. The monks and nuns should use black tea for inner offering. But it is supposed to be alcohol. But bottom line, it's supposed to be high protein. Okay, that's the real thing. Okay, recovering alcoholics. Okay, yeah, I guess maybe you should just use water or something like that. I don't disagree with that because recovering alcoholics, that could be touchy. Okay, then there's can I share these files again? Okay, Sarvasiddhi Pala Home. Okay, I'm not a Sanskrit scholar, but the thing is, it could mean protection things. So thank you very much, Ramana Swami. Okay, as I say, Paula, I think of the Dharma Pala, but as you say, I'm not, actually, just a joke, okay, when I took refuge, or I actually took my ordination as a monk, I couldn't speak Tibetan, and Tibetan is a tonal language. So you have ka, ka, ga, ma, okay, and I didn't know that. So anyway, I took refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So I was saying, Sangha la kapsu cheo, cho la kapsu cheo, Sangha la geden la kapsu cheo. But when I said the word cho, I was saying cho, because that's what I understood. Okay, and that was yogurt. So the Lama that gave me my refuge was Geshe Rapton and Lama Yeshe. Actually, they laughed at the end of it, and he said, "Look, Jamba, you're taking refuge in the Buddha, you're taking refuge in yogurt, and you're taking refuge in the Sangha." So anyway, Ramana Swami, thank you very much for clarifying that. Just it's the results and foods of protection. So again, I'm not up on Sanskrit, so thank you very much. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. So good. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Lama Jumpa, for that excellent teaching. We would like to offer you a mandala.
Okay, sure.
Sa shi pöki jokshik meto dram rara blingshin yede gyampa de sanje shingdo mikte powai droka namda chingla chirparshu idam guru ratna mandala kam yame. Thank you so very much. And of course, thank you all for tuning in. We will upload that teaching on YouTube, and we will send you later an email with all the files that we also put now in the chat, but we will also send it via email. And of course, tomorrow Lama Jumpa will be giving a general teaching on offerings, and on Saturday an Chenrezig empowerment, and we will also give you the Zoom links in that email with all the files. Yes, and anything else, just keep on checking your emails for future events with Lama Jumpa. We'll notify you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Hi, Cliff. Nice to see you there. And some of you other ones that I don't know very well, but we'll slowly get to know. Big hugs. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.